Where did the moon come from? How was it formed? Throughout history, many people have sought answers to this question. Dozens of theories are being developed. Could a planet the size of Mars collide with Earth? The result of all our research is in the number of you, our valuable followers. If you also want to support us, you can support us on Patreon and YouTube. You can become our members from Patreon by visiting the Total Automation link in the fixed condition. Scientists are preparing a simulation of such a cannonball by uploading all available data to supercomputers. According to one of the highest resolution simulations ever performed, the moon may have come within hours of a massive impact. It can come to me in just a few hours. In the solar system, there are more than 200 gyres around the 8 planets, which rotate, that is, natural gyres. But their distribution among planets is quite strange. Starting with the outermost planet, Neptune has 14, Uranus 27, Saturn 83, Jupiter 80, and Mars 2p2. Earth is the only planet with a single p2. Moreover, it is the moon at p2 that is closest to the sun, because the inner planets, Mercury and Venus, have no planets, no p2. In other words, the moon is a special constellation in the solar system. It's not exactly the biggest. For example, Titan orbiting Saturn is 12 times bigger than it. But if we look at it, Saturn is almost 10 times larger than Earth. When comparing the sizes of the satellite and the planet it orbits, the moon breaks the record again. Among all the planets of the 8 planets, it is the world that has the largest satellite. When you look, we see small objects revolving around giant objects. However, the moon makes its position almost every 4th time. Due to their relative size, some astronomers have even considered them as a binary planetary system. But what about this interesting feature? What caused the creation of this satellite? In general, these are the main ideas. The accretion hypothesis. Mean from the accretion disk in the solar system when the Earth and Moon are simultaneously and together as a binary system. Suggesting that it is formed from particles and gases in the middle, or a black hole. However, it cannot explain the difference between the amount of iron in the Earth's core and the amount of iron in the Moon's core. Breakup physics Earth, which used to rotate at a greater speed, has thrown off part of its mass, and this part has turned into space. This thesis, put forward by George Darwin, the son of the famous biologist Charles Darwin, was somewhat popular until the Apollo mission, but later it disappeared. The eclipse hypothesis suggests that the moon actually came from another part of the solar system, but after a while, when it gets too close to the ground, it slows down and gets caught in gravity. The weakness of this idea is that it cannot explain how the moon licks. Is that he cannot explain. All of these assumptions have weaknesses. All this is obtained only from mathematical calculations on paper, which were put forward before the verse was published, and which were put forward as a result of observations on the ground, and these calculations appear to be absurd. Then 2 important developments occur. Computers are being invented and we're moving. Astronauts who first set foot in 1969 brought back samples found there. Scientists who study them understand that they are similar to the bedrock of the Earth. They were of a type of rock that you would find around an active volcano in Hawaii. What is even more interesting is that they discovered that the elements on the moon have the same isotope name as on the Earth. This is interesting because all other suhers in other parts of the solar system, meteorites falling from space, are manic of different isotope ratios. This tells us that the materials of the Moon and the Earth are very similar. There are also many craters on the surface of the Moon. Some of these are so large that they can only form Mactalics hundreds of kilometers in diameter. In other words, these Mactalics can help in its formation. Such celestial bodies roamed the inner planets in the solar system during the early days of the Earth's formation. This idea brought a new hypothesis to the minds of scientists. If a planet-sized object collided with the Earth, could it have caused the formation of the Moon? And it is very difficult to understand wealth with calculations. So in 1972, astronomers developed a computer program. This program was a limited attempt at the resources available at the time to simulate the accretion process in the early days of the solar system. Astronomers wanted to find out if there were other celestial bodies near the Earth that could interact with it. If there is another celestial body and it collides with the Earth, can a peck the size of the Moon be created? According to this primitive computer simulation, yes, such a thing would be possible. Thus emerged the most reliable idea ever developed: Big Impact Theory. 4.5 billion years ago, there was a hypothetical planet called Tia. This planet is the size of Mars. This planet, which is in the orbit of Mars, collided with the Earth and disintegrated. Part of it was scattered in the Earth's wind, and the thick part formed the Moon. According to Wasagad's planetary theorists, it is not completely gone. Parts of it may still exist at Lagrange points 4 and 5. In addition to explaining how the Moon was formed, the possibility of a collision with the T-planet can also explain why the size of the Earth's type is larger than expected for a body. The core and mantle of the Tia may be fused with the core and mantle of the Earth. Since the first computer program in 1972, many simulations have been done. Gas models were investigated, how the particles behave and how they interact with each other. Scientists believe that after the impact, the upper layers of the Earth would have completely melted. The collision causes the Earth to rotate, press, and also significantly distorts the shape of the Earth. Simulations to date suggest that material scattered on the ground after the big collision coalesced to form the Moon in less than a year. However, according to the most recent study published in October 2022, these hours may have occurred in Egypt. The simulation used in these studies is one of the most accurate and most detailed studies ever conducted to study the origin of the Moon or other giant impact. In that previous study, because supercomputers were used, he was able to detect parts, images, particles in his new behavior that he could not due to previous studies. In this new simulation from NASA and Durham University, a hypothetical Tia planet begins to approach Earth. This planet, which is the size of Mars, is close to the Earth. The jumpers scattered in the cosmos become not one, but two separate celestial bodies. The smaller object that is said to be higher than them is the Moon, which is our natural saliva. The nearby larger piece is bound to the ground because its gravitational pull is stronger. Meanwhile, the Moon moves into an even wider and more stable orbit. The great educational theory of the origin of the Moon is by far the most plausible explanation. The universe is born with such interactions, and it is the most plausible explanation. The universe is born with such collisions, and now, who knows what kind of collisions are happening? Mergers are underway. The better scientists can simulate, that is, analyze, what factors play a role in these collisions, the better prepared they will be to understand how a planet like our own might evolve and become habitable. As we learn how it came to be, what do we have to learn more about the development of our own planet? See you in the next video. Thank you. Stay safe.